Good morning and welcome everyone to our second workshop in this Greater Brisbane lockdown. Hope you guys are all having a fantastic morning. If you haven't seen already, there's actually some great news coming out of the state government this morning saying that we will be coming out of that lockdown very shortly. So, excuse me, very excited about that news, guys. But yes, today, welcome to the Future of Sport. We will be discussing some emerging trends, some future technology, and looking at how sport in the future may evolve and change. So I'm just going to get some slides up, guys, so we can get started. So hopefully you guys have all seen now there's a great comment capacity in these live streams. So whether you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook, we want you guys to be in there in the comments, giving your feedback, giving your thoughts on all the stuff that we're discussing. Now, my first question for you guys, before we even jump into the topic, I'm hoping there's some sports fans out there. I want you guys to be putting in your favorite sports into the comments. So whether your favorite sport is soccer, hockey, basketball, athletics, swimming, anything, I want to hear what you guys like to do in a sporting capacity. We've got the fantastic Lily, who will also be joining us in the comments, helping out there. And please remembering our just simple code of conduct of being a good human, everyone. We want to make sure this is a safe and fun learning environment for everyone, and that carries across to the comments. But yes, if everyone can please start jumping in the comments with their favorite sports now, that'd be fantastic. Look forward to reading a few of those as we go on. But yes, as I said, the future of sport, that's what we're going to be discussing today. But before we get into that topic, I'm going to give you a bit of an idea of who we are. If you don't know already, we are Bop Industries. So we're an education and technology company. We run workshops just like these in classrooms, as after school programs, incursions at major events like the World Science Festival, where we're helping young innovators like yourselves become the digital innovators of tomorrow. So we cover workshops on topics like science, technology, engineering, entrepreneurship, a whole bunch of really fascinating topics so that you guys can become even more powerful in your youth, because it is really incredible to see what the young people of today can do. So yeah, very exciting stuff that we do, and very excited to be here with you guys today in this online capacity. So yes, the future of sport, that's what we're going to be looking at today, looking at some emerging trends in technology. You guys may have already downloaded some templates that we sent out. If you haven't, no stress. You can do this workshop completely with just pen and paper. And we will want you guys dropping us a bunch of those comments in the comment section as well. I'm actually going to have a quick look in the comments now so I can see what you guys have said about your favorite sports. So we've got swimming, we've got soccer, triathlons, very well done to anyone who can do those, badminton, basketball, water polo, netball, cross country, rock climbing. There's really a whole bunch of stuff in there. And I think that speaks to the fascinating concept of sport, that there's so many different things that we can do. And so it's really interesting to look at how sport is going to evolve, because the way that sport was a long time ago or is now may not be how it looks in the future. So before we can really analyze what the future of sport is, I think it's important if we look at the history of sport. How did it all start? We can work that out and look at where we came from and look at how that journey is going to transition to where we're going in the future. Alrighty. So how did sport start? I think it's a pretty good question to look at first things first. Now, this little question mark logo, that's my symbol to you guys that I want to see a lot of comments dropping in that comment section. So I want your guys' thoughts on how did sports start? What kind of sports do you think started off in the sporting arena? What kind of people do you think started doing sport? I want you guys to start thinking about that and dropping your thoughts in the comments so that we can have a bit of a look at, who's got the right perception around how sports started. So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to do that one. I'm just going to minimize myself and then I'll come back to you in about 30 seconds. Alrighty, guys, let's go. Alrighty, Guy. Thank you very much. So we've got a few responses in the comments there. So we've got some thoughts around the First Nations people with a variation of AFL, which is a fantastic thing to think about. Cavemen, starting with football. We've got some other concepts here, but someone who's gotten it pretty much dead on is Tricep Lagarde. Some sports could have started as training for hunting techniques. Because, I'll just make that slide a little bit bigger for you guys. So yeah, sport really did originate from the preparation for hunting or training for war. This explains why so many of those early sports that we think of in the Olympics and stuff like that, there's a lot of those kind of either throwing spears or throwing big projectiles or one-on-one kind of competitions or combat even sports. So that's where we're looking at for where sport originally started. So keep that in mind as we move forward. And looking a bit further, as I said, the Olympic Games. I know someone did mention Romans. The Greeks, the Olympic Games, that's probably where the legitimization of sport started, which is fantastic looking at that. So what kind of sports do you think were at the original Olympics? This is another comment question. I'm going to move into it pretty quickly, though. So I want you guys to be pretty quick with your ideas around the kind of sports that were in the original Olympics. Thinking about that previous answer we had, if people were preparing for war or preparing for hunting, that was kind of their inspiration for those initial first sports. What kind of sports do you think were at the first Olympics? And bonus points to anyone who can tell us when the first Olympics started. What year? I'll give you a hint. It's a BC year, so quite a long time ago. So just give you guys another 30 seconds or so to get some ideas there. So I see we've already got some in there: running races, marathons, sprinting, javelin, spear throwing, football and AFL. Unfortunately, we might have been a little bit early for that one. But yeah, looking forward, looking at this with the first Olympic Games, it was in 776 BC. So looking at almost 3,000 years ago, it included such events as foot and chariot races, wrestling, jumping, discus, and javelin throwing. So yeah, some really good points in the comments there. Javelin is a really popular one. And it's pretty incredible to see that even 3,000 years ago, approximately, when those Olympics started, we've got a lot of those events still in our Olympics today. So really those foundations of sport have really stayed true, and we've really kept those. But yeah, the Olympic Games, the first real legitimization of sport. Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Well, now that we've taken a little bit of a look at the past, now we can start to look at the future, which is the really exciting stuff. So we're going to be looking at future trends in sports. So I'm going to identify a few here. So our four main trends that we're going to be looking at today are esports and sportification, sustainability in sport, improving sport with technology, and the spectator experience. So we're going to be looking at each of these in how sport is currently changing and how you guys can imagine sport changing in the future with all these trends in mind. Okay, so alrighty. Before we get into that one, we've got another little quick comment question, which is how would you describe an athlete? So this can be for any sport. It can be, whatever kind of athlete, just looking at how you would generally describe an athlete. If you were trying to explain to someone what someone who is a professional athlete either looks like or how they perform, what kind of adjectives would you use to describe their athletic ability? I want you guys to put those into the comments. I'm going to give you another 30 seconds to do that, put some music on, and see what you guys come up with. Awesome work, guys. Thank you so much. So I'm just going to go through a few of these comments, see what you guys have come up with. So we've got sweaty, fit, they've got muscles, they're sporty, they're strong. Someone's even said they're bald, which is maybe for some who are trying to be that extra aerodynamic, it might add something. But good at communicating, good at running, encouraging if they play a team sport. So yeah, some really fantastic adjectives in there and a really interesting kind of description of what athletes are. I'm just going to make this slide a bit bigger for you guys because the next slide may shock you. Now, all of these people on screen are athletes. So you've obviously got the epitome of the athletic build in either Serena Williams or Cristiano Ronaldo. They're really at that peak of physical activity. But then you've also got esports athletes now emerging. So you've got Tex and Anna in the middle there. Tex is a professional FIFA player, and Anna is a very highly regarded CSGO or Counter-Strike player. So it's very interesting that we still, at this time, have a very good concept of an athlete being physically prowess, having a great physical prowess. But as we move forwards looking at esports athletes, it's going to be very interesting to see if that perception of what an athlete is changes. So that's just a little fascinating exercise for you guys. But we're going to move into the esports and sportification topic proper now. So esports and sportification, I'll give you guys a couple of quick definitions. So esports, it's a multiplayer video game that's played competitively for spectators, typically by professional gamers. So we're going to go through some of the more popular types of esports games, but it is really that top level of competitive gaming. You've then got sportification, which is actually the process by which a game becomes an esports. So sportification means to view, organize, or regulate a non-sporting activity in such a way that it resembles a sport. So at one point, a game will just be a game, but then when you start getting a code of conduct, you start getting a professional sporting body, you start getting legitimate professional athletes for that sport, the game then is no longer a game, it becomes an esport, and that process is called sportification. So you can think about how sportification could be applied to either other video games or any other kind of activity that you like and see how that could evolve into a sport. So I'm just going to talk through a few stats with esports because it is really fascinating. So the viewership for esports is predicted to actually overtake Major League Baseball and NBA this year in 2021 and could soon rival the NFL too. So you can see that in 2021, they're predicting that over 80 million people will be viewing esports. So it's pretty incredible to think about that viewership number when compared to stuff like the NBA, which in general popular culture or in the news or maybe to your parents, the NBA would be considered far bigger than any kind of esports. But you can see the proof is in the pudding with those numbers. So pretty fascinating stuff there. We're also thinking about the number of hours that people dedicate to watching esports. So League of Legends, which is the biggest esports at the moment, it's viewed by almost 350 million hours of content on streaming platforms. So that's people sitting down, watching these people game, and over 1 year, 350 million hours is spent watching just one type of game, League of Legends alone. So if you combine that with other popular games like CSGO, Dota 2, and Overwatch, it's really incredible to see the amount of reach that these esports games are getting and how they really are going to start taking over, I guess, in terms of what people watch on a general basis. Alrighty, so this is going to be our first activity, guys. So if you do have the template that we provided you guys and you've printed those out, there should be a template called The Future of Sport that should have the title in the middle there. So that should have 4 little squares for each of our trends. So what we're going to do for this little activity, we're going to take about 5 minutes with this one. I want you guys to be writing down some points in answer to these questions. So how might esports become more similar to traditional sports moving forwards? If you think about that sportification process, what might esport athletes have to start doing that's more similar to regular athletes, whether that's how they act or how they're perceived in the public persona or just, anything around professional sport, kind of becoming a professional sports person? What kind of equipment or controls will the e-athletes of tomorrow be using? Can you imagine any kind of crazy technologies that they might be using, whether that's VR or AR or anything that will really augment that ability to have esports as a huge spectacle? And do you think young people will become more or less interested in sports and physical activity with the rise in esports? Do you think people are going to be striving to want to do those activities more, or because esports are going to become so much more professional and interesting that they'll just be wanting to do that instead? So I want you guys to take the next 5 minutes. I'm going to put some music on, make some notes, but also drop your thoughts in the comments. We'll be reading through those in a few minutes as well. So yeah, get your minds thinking, open your minds up. There's no stupid answers. I wanted you guys to be thinking big, thinking different, and getting those answers out there. So I'm going to put some music on now, start making those notes, but also start dropping them in the comments. Okay, guys? I'll be with you back in about 5 minutes, okay? Alrighty, guys, going to wrap that one up just there. Thank you so much for all those awesome responses in the comments. So I'm just going to read through some of those ideas in case not everyone can see them. So we looked at how VR simulations are going to start to be getting improved with that more physical element to them. So whether that's having gloves and moving around and feeling stuff, or feeling like you're more in an actual sport, kind of replicating realistic or physical sports using all that kind of VR technology. So very interesting stuff there. Strong mindsets was a very popular answer in the comments. So obviously there's some strong-mindedness coming towards sports in the future. The fact that young people might actually want to get exercise because esports becomes more of the norm could be an interesting concept, seeing how if we expected more or esports becomes more of the normal, that more fun and more physical activity will be becoming more popular. So and even we've just got a last one here, a multi-directional treadmill and virtual reality combined. I believe that is actually in the process of being built. I don't have any examples of that slide particularly, but some really interesting stuff coming through there, guys. So keep dropping those comments in there. I'm going to start moving on to the next subject matter, but that's some fascinating stuff, guys. Thank you so much for all your content there. Alrighty, so we're next going to be talking about sustainability in sport. So sustainability, obviously looking at environmentalism. Sustainability can also factor in social kind of responsibility, so ensuring that people are doing things, clubs, particularly sporting clubs or organizations, are doing things that are socially just, but also economically sustainable. It's all very well and good to be able to do all these environmental measures, but they do still need to be economically sustainable as well. We are going to be focusing mainly on environmental sustainability though, but just looking at sustainability in sport in general, I think is a very important thing as we move forward, because it's an expectation for any kind of company to be more sustainable in the future. So I'm going to give you guys a bit of a case study on Forest Green Rovers FC. If there's any FIFA players in the audience, if you've played as Forest Green Rovers, let me know in the comments. They are a League Two professional team in England. But they're a really fascinating club because their whole concept is that they want to be sustainable, environmentally sustainable, is at the absolute height of importance for them as a club. So they've got a completely green stadium. So they only use green energy, whether that's solar or other types of green energy. They've got a fully organic pitch, so they don't use any chemicals or pesticides to maintain the grass at the pitch. And they even have an electric mowbot, which I think is pretty cool. Basically, it's a GPS-programmed robot that mows the grass at their stadium. So they, instead of having to have a petrol or a diesel mower with an actual gardener like mowing the lawn, they've got this GPS tracking robot that travels all across the grass and keeps the grass perfectly mowed. So some fantastic initiatives there. They're also a 100% vegan club. So vegan, if you don't know, is that you can't eat any meat or any animal products entirely. So that can be milk or eggs or anything like that. But vegan food is served to players, staff, and even fans. So if you imagine that, if you're at a Forest Green Rovers home match and you want to go get a pie or a hot dog or a burger at halftime, you can only get vegan foods. You can only get vegan options of those things. So you might be getting a pretty different rendition of your standard meat pie or your burger or something like that, because it is going to be completely vegan. So it's really interesting looking at that as an initiative. They also want to, in the future, build a new stadium called the Eco Park, which is going to be a stadium made entirely of wood. So if you think about any stadiums that you've been to in the past, whether that's Suncorp Stadium, ANZ, the Gabba, think about how many other materials are used in building those stadiums, and imagine that all is wood. So it's a very interesting concept, a lot more environmentally friendly, obviously. So Forest Green Rovers are really, I guess, the pioneers and leaders in terms of environmentalism as a sports club. And they bring up a really kind of interesting concept as to whether other sporting clubs should be doing these kind of things too. They are really trying to pave the way for sporting teams, particularly in England, but all around the world. They're a really interesting case study in terms of environmentalism. So for our next activity, we're going to be looking at sustainability in sport. And as I said, we focused a lot on environmentalism there. But I want you guys to start thinking, are sporting organizations doing enough to be sustainable or be environmentally friendly? And what kind of things could they be doing? I mean, you can take examples from Forest Green Rovers, like the vegan food, which obviously minimizes the greenhouse gases associated with beef. But think about any other things that you think sporting clubs or sporting stadiums or organizations could be doing to be more environmentally friendly. And think about your last trip to a sporting venue. It might have been a little while since you've gone to Suncorp or the Gabba, but think about what things happen at the game. Think about, I guess, the food waste or the rubbish or even all the people having to travel there. Think about everything that's involved in that experience in terms of environmental impact, and think about what could be changed to make that experience more environmentally friendly. Again, I'm going to put some music on, give you guys about 5 minutes. I want you to make some notes in your little templates if you have them, but also putting them all in the comments so that we can see. So yeah, I'm going to put some music on, give you about 5 minutes to think about these questions, and we'll come back and have a look at what you thought. Alrighty, guys, let's do it. Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much. There's so many fantastic initiatives going on in the comment section. I really like that people are thinking both big and small. So thinking about stadiums, thinking about the solar power that we could be using to power the lights and the big screens there, thinking about transport, how can we make sure that people are either using trains or carpooling or using those kind of things. But I love that people are thinking on their more local scale as well. So thinking about your local cross-country or swimming or triathlon, how you could bring those initiatives there. So whether it's biodegradable, either water bottles or plates or materials, using bamboo plates and cutlery to make sure that that kind of food waste is less minimal. I think another really great suggestion was more bins at the stadiums, because a lot of the time people will just put their rubbish down on their seat because they can't actually get to a bin. Whereas if there's more bins, particularly more recycling bins, maybe we can have that better return on recycling. So yeah, some fantastic ideas in there. Thank you so much, everyone. There's some great initiatives happening. Alrighty, we're going to move on to our next our next future trend, which is improving sport with technology. So on the screen here, you can see a particularly innovative piece of technology, which is Hawkeye. So we're going to do a little case study on Hawkeye. It's a fascinating piece of technology that has really innovated in a lot of sports. You can see tennis there. It's also used in cricket, in football as well. Hawkeye basically is a use of around 6 or 7 very high-speed cameras, all pointed at particular points in either the court or the pitch. And using those cameras, they make graphical re-representations of the action that's just happened. So, for example, in tennis, if there's a call that the ball has gone out, they can now challenge that call because obviously the human eye, it's not going to be perfect every time. So using Hawkeye, they can really actually judge whether the ball was in or out. And Hawkeye has, I believe, the measure of inaccuracy, like the error point is 0.3 millimeters. So it's a pretty incredibly accurate piece of technology that helps ensure that our games become fairer. And that's a really interesting way to look at how technology can improve sport, is thinking about how can we make things more fair, but also in other ways like being more safe or more interesting, particularly. Alrighty, so thinking about Hawkeye as one of the best innovations in sport, there's also a whole bunch of other stuff that's happening in terms of tech in sport. So video assistant referee. So this has been around for a little while now, but it's being introduced to more and more sports. So particularly soccer over the last sort of 3 years has started to involve video assistant referee, which in theory should help make the game more fair, to make it easier for the referee, because as I said, the human eye can't always be perfect, but if there's someone else who's got cameras and replays, they should be able to make a fairer decision. Now there's debate whether it is or not, because you've still got a human element to that decision. But it's a way that we can try to improve the game and try and make sure that it's as fair as possible. I don't know about you, but I really get angry when I get the wrong call, or if something goes against me that I don't think is correct from the referee. It's very frustrating. Obviously, you have to keep it to yourself, but I know that that's always hard to deal with. So if there can be ways that we can make the game fairer with technology, I think that's always a win. But thinking about other things that improve accuracy, like timing systems. So if you think about a running race, there's usually a starter's gun and a stopwatch to try and time how fast someone has gone. There's now fully synchronized systems where the starting gun and the stopwatch, they're actually interconnected, so that the moment that gun goes off, the stopwatch starts, so that you're not having to have any kind of reaction time between them. So That also helps us improve our accuracy and our recording of sports data. And then thinking about safety, there's a lot of work going on now into collision data. So our sports, obviously, particularly rugby, AFL, American football, all those kind of sports where people are really coming and hitting each other quite hard. Looking at collision data and seeing how we can make it as safe as possible. What kind of things can we do to improve the sport and ensure that, our athletes are as safe as possible? And also tracking performance. We're kind of in this Fitbit and Apple iWatch generation where everyone is tracking their steps, tracking their heart rate at all times. That's also being used for athletes as well to ensure that we're tracking their performance, which can either be used to improve their sporting performance or improve the safety to make sure that they're not going to be coming under any strain as we go forwards. So thinking about technology, I really want you to open your minds up here. Are there any pieces of technology that could be adapted or used to improve the sports that you love? Whether that's technology you use at home or you've seen out in the world, or even things that you don't think exist yet. How would you want to see technology brought into sport to make it improved, I guess, whether that's more entertaining for you to compete as a sporting person, to watch as a sporting person, but how also do you think technology will improve sports in the future? Do you think there's particular technologies that are just waiting to be put into sport and ready to improve those competitions? I want to hear your thoughts. Make those notes in your templates, but also chuck them in the comments. I've got some ideas down here as well, so I'll be looking forward to hearing yours. I'm going to put some music back on, guys. Give you about 5 minutes to do that one again. And we'll see what you come up with. Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much. Some absolutely amazing suggestions in the comments there. I've noted a few down, but keep putting them down there so that we can keep seeing what you're coming up with. But looking at goal line technology, this is something that has come into football in the last few years using that Hawkeye technology. And it really is revolutionary, the idea that, once the ball crosses the line, the referee basically just gets a little buzz on their watch and it tells them when there's a goal or not. So that's a really good piece of technology that just ensures we get a fairer game. There was a lot of talk about anti-cheating technology, whether that's cameras or drones that are using to monitor the players. I think even you could take that further and think about if there's any kind of implants they can get where it monitors kind of cheating motivations, because often even a camera may not catch whether they meant to do something or not. So I think that's a really interesting concept to be thinking about. A lot of technology around swimming we feel could be improved, and I think that is actually a definite one as well. So we're looking at big screens for the swimmers to see stuff, or even the line from when you watch swimming at the Olympics, you see the line moving across the pool for the world record, where the swimmers could actually see that as well to kind of push them further, or even have holographic competitors next to them when they're training so that they can really get that competitive sense and train even harder. So some absolutely amazing ideas there, guys. Thank you so much for all those. So we're going to be moving on to our last trend here, guys, which is the spectator experience. Let me just make that a bit bigger for you. So the spectator experience, we're really going to be thinking about sport not so much from the athlete perspective, but from the fan perspective. So a lot of this, we've been thinking about sports from the ground level. We want to be thinking about it from the stands or from when you're watching it at home. So think about some technologies that have come along in terms of the spectator experience or innovations that we've had. Streaming platforms really do demonstrate a new innovation for how we watch sport, because traditionally you would have to watch Channel 9 or Fox Sports or Channel 10 to watch a sporting game. Now you're seeing streaming platforms like Stan. They've purchased the rights to the Super Rugby for this season. So potentially we might start getting this war where we have Netflix have certain sports or Stan have certain sports. All the different streaming platforms may now become the competition place for sporting broadcasts as well. So that's going to be fascinating to see what happens there. You've also got YouTube watch-alongs. So this kind of changes the concept of watching sport. Traditionally, watching sport either with your friends or your family. But now with these YouTube watch-alongs, you can just basically watch other people who are watching the sport. And they'll be talking, they'll be friends, they'll be talking about the sport, getting some insights. And it's like having friends on the couch with you. So if, particularly in the world we're in now, where if you're having a lockdown and you can't get together with your friends, having that capacity to have a kind of similar experience through technology is a really interesting concept. And even some people go as far as not actually watching the sporting game. They only watch these other people watching the game. So you don't even get to see the sporting action. You just see their expressions and stuff. So interesting stuff from there. And then looking at AR and VR, this is really where we can see the most technological innovation in terms of experiencing sport as a spectator. So I'm going to go through a couple of examples. So you can see the Dallas Cowboys here. This is an augmented reality display of their pitch. So basically, if you go to a Dallas Cowboys game at halftime, you can put your phone up onto the pitch, and there'll be these huge augmented reality robots that play out parts of the game, and they'll verse against the players. You can also see live action replays from your phone as AR onto the screen. So instead of having to just watch it on your screen down here, you can put your phone up and look at how the replay actually happened on the pitch using augmented reality. So I think that's a really cool thing. And it even brings up stats and information about the players as well. So that's a really interesting way how augmented reality can be used for the in-stadium experience. But then when you can't get to the stadium, for example, in a lockdown such as we're in right now, the NBA partnered with NextVR to offer this VR experience where you're right in the middle of the action from courtside, being able to see dunks coming in right in front of your face, which is pretty spectacular when, if you consider like the Lakers, for example, it's going to be thousands of dollars to get a courtside seat, sorry. And this was actually a free service that they offered for highlights. So after the game, you could come and watch the highlights of the game from this perfect seat, seeing all the action. And yeah, that's only really possible with this VR technology, and particularly when you've got the actual VR goggles on and you can start to look around and experience, even hear the stadium. That's where we start to elevate that spectator experience. And it's really fascinating to see where we go and see how much it will change in terms of how much we actually do go to stadiums or what we do in those stadiums. So this is going to be our last little trend here, guys. So I want you guys to start thinking about how you would like the spectator experience to change. Is there anything about watching sport on TV or watching it in the stadium that you would like to see change, and what kind of technology would you use to do that in the future? So yeah, I'm going to give you another few minutes to do that, guys, and then we're going to come back and hear your thoughts, and then we've got one final activity. Alrighty, guys, I'm going to put some music back on now. I'll see you in a few minutes. Alrighty, guys, I am going to pull that one just up there so that we have enough time for our last activity. But thank you so much. There were some awesome suggestions in the comments there. We had stuff about different views on the pitch, so being able to have more cameras and more technology so that you can see either from the sidelines or from behind the goal or on the goal line. Some really awesome ideas there. I think hologram players next to you, that's such an incredible concept. So whether you're watching at home or watching in the stadium, whether you could have holograms pop up so that you feel like you're right in the middle of the action. Some really cool stuff there. And again, looking at 3D sports and athletes wearing these body cameras that can be connected to the spectator's device. So we've already got ref cams in some sports, which is a really cool little insight. But imagine player cameras. You can actually see when they're catching the ball, when they're passing the ball, what kind of things they're doing. So definitely some fantastic things that we could do in terms of spectator experience. So awesome job, guys. Alrighty, so we're now going to move on to our last activity. Let me just make that a bit bigger again. So our last activity is going to be designing the future of sports. So we've been looking at all of these future trends and coming up with these concepts, but we're going to take that a step further now. I want you guys either using that template. If you've got the templates at home, there should be one that says the future of and then a blank line. If you're not, just writing it in your notebook or in the comments as well. I want you guys to pick a sport. It can be one of the sports on the screen here, or it can be your favorite sport, anything that you can think of. And I want you guys to be thinking about those 4 topics that we've been looking at, which is esports and sportification, sustainability in sport, improving sport with technology, and the spectator experience, and how we can, revolutionize these sports that we know and love using all 4 of those trends to come up with some brand new sports. So I'm going to give you guys another 5 or 6 minutes to do this one, give you a little bit longer so that you can take that time. I want to hear your guys' concepts. Once you've gotten it all together, either in your notes or in your templates, put it in the comments. What are you guys thinking the future of each of these sports will look like? So I'll give you guys a few minutes to do this one, and then we'll come back and hear about the future of each of these sports. All right, guys, let's do it. Alrighty, guys, we're going to wrap that one up there. I wish I could just keep chatting to you guys about this all day because there's some fantastic concepts that are coming up there. I'm going to read a few out now, but there's so many more in the comments, so be sure to check those out as well. We heard some requests for VAR in volleyball, so video assistant referee, trying to make that game as fair as it possibly can be. I think better communications between athletes and their coaches, so whether that's swimming or running or any kind of sport really, if we think about how far Bluetooth connectivity in terms of Bluetooth headphones, AirPods, all that kind of stuff has come, it'll be interesting to see if we can get more protective versions of those so that athletes and their coaches can communicate better. I think a really awesome one was some surfing holograms. So that if you're learning to surf or you're just trying to hit the best wave, having little holograms pop up out of the water or out of your board to indicate where you should be going. Yeah, that's fantastic because I've got some very close friends who are very good surfers, and I very much struggle to keep up with them. So anything that can help me do that, I think, is good. Particularly with the fact that we're now man-making reefs and surf areas, I think it would be pretty plausible to put some holograms up there. And also some impact sensors for boxing gloves so that people can tell how hard they're hitting. I think that's another really fascinating concept, and some really good ones generally out there. But yeah, thank you so much, guys. We're just going to skip ahead to, the future of sport. That pretty much sums it up. We've talked about all of these incredible new trends that are coming up, thought about how many ways we can improve the sports that we love. The final thing we want you guys to do is to actually get in touch with us. So if you've got a fully fleshed concept for a sport, using those 4 different trends, either using the templates that we sent out, or you can make your own kind of slideshows or any kind of designs, we want to hear from you. So if you email us, hello@bopindustries.com, with that idea of what your future sport might look like, we do have a few prizes to give out. So yeah, we'll be really interested to hear from you guys what kind of futures you see for sport. And we hope that we can see you guys again. I'll just make this a little bit bigger again. So yes, obviously we're here online today, but we also do run after school programs, school holiday programs, community days and events. And even for any of those in the audience who want to start their own businesses, we have our own Young Entrepreneurs Hub, which is a little area in our offices where we help young people like yourselves build your own businesses. So you can find out more about all of these and more at www.bopindustries.com. But yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate all of your fantastic ideas in the comments today. And yes, enjoy the last sort of hour and a half of lockdown. That lockdown should be breaking at about midday today, Australian Eastern Standard Time. So thank you so much, everyone. Hope you all enjoyed the session. Please be sure to leave any thoughts in the comments, and we'll see you at the next one. Alrighty, I'm just going to put this on some music, guys, so that you guys can sign out. Put any last thoughts in the comments, and we'll see you next time. My name is Mark, and I'll see you again. Thanks, guys.